How many of you guys are 3-3 guys already? So we're not really trying to teach anybody anything, we're just trying to talk about the stuff we do, right? We're not trying to convince anybody because it's been a boon for us. We were a 4-2 split 6 look for years and years and years, and one year we just kept, we were I think we're the 14th largest school in Class A, and now we're 27th, and we slowly kind of dribbled down, and we noticed a difference in our personnel as well. So we sat down one time back in 2005, my O-line coach, defensive coordinator, and myself, and we said, what works better for our kids? And I said, you guys go online, look around, find a defense, and we'll come back and we'll see what kinds of things we have. And all three of us came up with 3-3 or 3-5. And so what we did was we found a guy out in Oklahoma, high school coach, the coach that we went down there and spent, I don't know, the better part of a week one summer, and just hung out with their staff and learned the 3-3 from the inside out. And I think the biggest thing that we're looking at when you come to a clinic like this, you want to know what's unique about something that you're doing that we can use with what we're doing. I think we do a couple things. First of all, it started out as our defense started out as a defense that we would just kind of let the kids make the calls. They would stack up, and the first couple of years we had it, and they would decide which gaps they were taking and when they were taking them, and it was pretty good. But our defensive coordinator would be anal, I think, would be a little bit not strong enough for him. He's very, very control type, and so he's gotten to the point where he wants to make the calls again. So it looks a lot like some of the things that we saw up here earlier. But I think these are some of the prerequisites that you have to understand about why we're doing the things we do. First of all, you never get anything from a kid if you tell him. You only get it if you rep it and rep it. And I'm huge on reps, and Matt will attest to this. We just rep things constantly. We do very simple things, but we do it over and over and over. We practice it constantly. So some of these things that we talk about, we had to do other things to be able to run this 3-3. And one of the things we did that I think is huge for what we do is we 2-platoon. For the most part. I think we had 2 kids play both ways this year, correct? And each one of them, as the year progressed, they slowly gravitated to one side of the ball. So we really had nobody that was full two-time players, although we had some pretty good players. That means we have a staff at the high school level, which is 10th, 11th, to 12th grade, reserve, JV, and varsity. We have 8 coaches, 4 offense, 4 defense. And we have 4 that are just purely freshman coaches. And those, so like, Matt's the only one that's really super overloaded. Matt is he's our linebackers coach, but he's also our special teams coordinator. He has all the special teams. So he has all of that stuff plus his part in the defense. And but I think coaches watch a hell of a lot more film if all they're watching is, I just watch quarterback stuff and receivers. I don't watch the defense. I know very little about the defense anymore. I was part of the genesis of it, the beginning of it. But the things that they have added and tweaked, they just come in. We meet on Sunday mornings, separated into 2 different rooms. We meet for about an hour, separated into 2 different rooms, and then afterwards, John, our D coordinator, comes in and says, "I want to try this and this. You all right with that?" And yeah, I have no idea what you're doing, but yeah, that sounds good to me. And that's really my connection with the defense. Except for, at times, he'll call me down and say, "Do you think it's all right if we do this?" And so there's a connection there. There's always a connection. But one of the things that happened to us, we have a no-huddle mentality. Our practices are, we went from back in the old days running, I wouldn't call them all live plays, but full, everybody running a play, maybe 40, 45 a night. And now we're running probably offensively and defensively, maybe 150, 200 plays a night. Not on air, on bags, on whatever, but it's just a constant repetition. And the defense has to keep up with the offense, and so therefore their calls have got much quicker and more, I don't know what I want to say, triggered based on what we're doing and things what other people are doing. And I think that the kids get more and more reps. And I lead all of that into this next part, is that I think there are 2 things that really happen with this. First of all, we got into a situation one year, probably about 4 years ago, where I really noticed in end of half and end of game, we had a couple situations where normally people don't drive the length of the field on us and do something, and they did. One of them cost us a big game. Lincoln East came down, and I think we scored with about 40 seconds left, and they went right down the field and scored on us. And I was really frustrated because I'm an attack type person, and John's more reticent. He wanted to lay back and play defense, and they just went right underneath us, boom, 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 right down the field and scored and beat us. And I thought it was pretty kept us out of the playoffs that year. And so I did some film work on pros, college, and high school, and ourselves. And I checked to see what I considered to be an end of halves when there was a team trying to move down the field. attack-oriented defense or lay back and play defense. And I can't remember the exact percentages, but the teams that were attacking and playing man cover, whatever you want, but attacking the quarterback, won that particular drive 90% of the time. Teams that laid back lost a lot, like probably 40–60% of the time they got beat. And so I talked to John in the offseason. I said, we have to become an attack-oriented team all the time. Not just, we consider ourselves a very attack team. You'll see that with our kids. We're bringing linebackers all the time. But sometimes you get you pucker up a little bit and say, God, I don't want to give up a big play. Well, we accept that we're going to give up big plays. It's going to happen. But we also keep track of how many plays we make on the other side of the ball. And we make a ton more of those than we're going to get against us. So that led into, and that in fact, we hired a guy by the name of Jeremy Widener, who is a hellacious secondary coach. And we do not have speedy kids. 3 years ago, our fastest kid ran an electronic 4.9. And that's not very fast, especially when Fremont was running all these 4.2 and 4.3 kids at us.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And we, so playing defense against receivers was always kind of scary for us. But Jeremy's done a hell of a job. I think Matt's going to mention we play a lot of different coverages. We disguise a lot of coverages. We're pressing, we're bumping, we're doing all kinds of things with that. And that allowed us then to do what I'm about to talk, what Matt's going to talk about for the most part here. That same summer, I said to John, I said to our quarterback, who's now at Wayne State playing quarterback, and I said, Taylor, what's the worst thing you saw whenever you stepped up line of scrimmage? And he said, late shift. He said, even if I knew what the play was going to be, late shift screws me up, changes my read even slightly, it changes things, and I agreed with him. And so we went to, John and I sat down. I don't remember if you were in on that conversation or not originally, but I said, we're going to shift. We're going to move. In order to move, you can't always move to a 3-3 because we always put our ends in a 4, played our nose head up, and then we'd do things off of that. So if we're going to shift, we got to shift into multiple different things. So in reality, when you look at us on film, you'll see a 3-3, a 3-5, a 5-3, a 4-2, a 4-3, a 4-6. I mean, we've got people over there. We got a radar. And the whole idea, it started out with just a couple rules. We said, these kids, and when I was talking to John, I said, these are my base rules, and you come up with whatever you want. If this is your gap, you can be no further than the inside of the other gap. And the other way you can go, but you can go where in the hell you want to. And he also added, I believe, some specifics where he speaks it out to him, right?
Yeah.
So he tells him, this is where I want you. And now we got kids moving all over the place, and then the linebacker, Matt's got his own rules. He made up some rules for them. But it's there was an offensive guy that had defensive ideas, if that gives you any. So I didn't really have all of the nuts and bolts in place, and that's where these guys took it to a whole other level, and that's where you get trust in the staff and the kinds of people that you're coaching. And then the shifting that we have, I think, when I talk to coaches that we play, and I know that we weren't shifting as much when we played you guys, but anybody that I play now, that's the first thing they say is, how do you get your kids to line up? Well, the kids are doing it. They're doing it on their own, and I think it looks confusing. And we have multiple times where we have offensive linemen doing this and 3 or 4 guys in the backfield. And that played into our ability then to, on a late game situation, just send tons of people and then also play some coverage behind it. So, and I'm going to leave it at that because that's all I know about defense. That's all I know about our defense. And Matt is one of our experts on our defense, and they do a hell of a job with that. Matt Skiff.
That's kind of in a nutshell. My name is Matt Skiff. I've been coaching linebackers, specifically outside linebackers, for the last 15 seasons now with Coach Olson. I actually played under Coach Olson way back in the day when we were running that 4-4, that split 6. Also played in that same system in college, and then coached 4 years of it when I came back to Norfolk. And so when we shifted to the 3-3, it was a total mind shift for myself, and a bit apprehensive at it, putting 3 guys up there on the defensive line. But in retrospect, though, it's one of the best things that we've ever done. You know, it fits our personality, it fits our personnel that we have at our high school, and it's been pretty good for us so far. So there's my information up there. If you see something that you'd like me to send you, or have a question you think of later on, you know, shoot me an email, shoot me a text, and I'll get back to you right away. So our topic today, you probably saw this on the list, shifting and stemming to multiple fronts in the 3-3 stack to create turnovers in different plays. So that's Ole came up with that title. He said, I'm going to come up with something kind of sexy for you. He asked me, what do you want to talk about? And I said, I've done a couple of these before, and he came back with this, and I said, that's great. So
Well, I have to admit, that's a pretty good title.
It is a pretty good title, exactly. Yeah. So, But, so we're gonna try and go into that today. We'll go through kind of our philosophy, some of our objectives, and then I've got some film clips here I'd like to show you that kind of emulates what we're trying to do with our defense. So, also kind of piggybacking on what Coach Olson was mentioning earlier, you know, when he was talking about Taylor Reedy, said what messes you up the most, and he said late shifts, you know. One of the best compliments I think we received recently, we had an all-star clinic in Norfolk here recently for our Northeast Nebraska all-star game, and Coach Huffman from Bell West spoke at it. And we played them this year. Now, they beat us pretty well. I know after the game, I spoke to one of their coaches, and I think it was their offensive coordinator, and he said, "Who's your defensive coordinator? Man, you guys come from everywhere." Well, Coach Huffman, he reiterated that at the clinic, saying, you know, we play Norfolk, we don't know where you guys are bringing people from. So, you know, if we're kind of getting into the minds of other teams in that way, we know that they're thinking ahead of time, you know, how are we going to protect ourselves? How are we going to, you know, deal with the multiple looks that Norfolk gives us? So that was kind of, like I said, that was just a nice compliment for him to kind of throw out at our way, considering the kind of success they have this year. They're a very potent offense, obviously, and well deserving of that championship. So our defensive philosophy, okay, I'll just kind of give you some background on this. You know, we want to score. Okay, that's at the top of our list. We're, like Coach said, we're not a reacting defense. We're an attack. Okay, and that's our mentality, is to attack. And you know, to do that, you got to be good tacklers. You know, the 3-3 puts your personnel in a lot of open field situations, and so one thing that we had to improve upon when we put this in was becoming better tacklers, especially in the open field. Our pursuit is something that we really focus on, and towards the end of this, I'll try and show you some of our, if I get to it, I'm kind of an over planner, so if I don't get to it, I apologize, but you know, we spend a lot of time on pursuit in our practices, and we used to do more pursuit drills, but our practice has become more pursuit oriented, if that kind of makes sense. You know, so it's built into our practice, as is many things, which allows us then to focus, like Coach said, you know, 150, 200 plays a night. You're getting those reps of plays, and you're working in kind of those basic expectations. And then turnovers, that's another thing that we had to focus on. When we brought this in, we decided we kind of needed an identity. We had to figure out what is our identity with this defense, other than just being this 3-3 stack. Okay? And we sat down, we went to those Glazier clinics, I'm sure you guys have been to those before. Coach by the name of Steve Stannard, who I had the privilege of playing under, who's now at Wyoming. When he was at Colorado State, he said they did a takeaway circuit every day. Okay, now we don't do it every day, we do it about twice a week, and that's something that we'll get to later on. But that really got us started kind of thinking about, you know, how do we create turnovers? You know, yeah, I work a turnover drill into my linebacker drills once in a while, but as a team, we weren't really doing it. We were making an emphasis, so that became an emphasis for us. Okay, and I'll show you some things here that kind of backs up to how that's really improved for us. Okay, so objectively, you know, we want to have intense pursuit. You know, we tell the kids we got to have all 11 hats in the film frame by the end of the play. Okay, creating takeaways. Our expectation is 3 takeaways per game. Okay, and we speak to that all week long. You know, in practice, how many takeaways do we get today? We get 3 takeaways today. You know, whether it be at the varsity level, the JV level, the freshman level. Okay, 3 is our objective. Okay, and our guys take that serious. I mean, when you make it an emphasis, okay, and we do some, we do some things to kind of reward that emphasis. It gets to be kind of part of your culture, and it's become part of our culture at Norfolk High. We also want to stop the run. Okay, if we can keep them down to 3.3 yards per carry, and our defensive coordinators kind of come up with some of these averages. Control the pass, 6.6 yards per attempt. You know, be great tacklers, be good on first down. Okay, be great on third down, 65% of the time. If we can get a 3 and out, hey, we're doing a good job. Big plays. Okay, how many of you guys have experienced big plays with the 3-3? Okay, that's one of the weaknesses of it, and so. You know, it's kind of a bend, don't break kind of system. You know, we know we're going to give up big plays, and that was something that we had to swallow. It was hard to swallow when we started running this defense, because we were going to attack, and eventually we're going to give up a big play. Well, hey, if we can minimize those big plays, hey, we're going to be all right. Coach, you want to add to that?
Candy bars.
What's that?
Candy bars.
Yep, I'll get to that here in a little bit. Yep. Play smart, know the situation, do a lot of film work. You know, we really focus on the specifics of what teams do well. Hey, we don't get too crazy with, trying to throw 20 different plays at our defense. And if we can hold teams to less than 14 points and 250 yards per game, those are kind of some of our objectives. So, hey, some of our stats over the years. In 2014, you can kind of see a progression. This is 2016. I know it's kind of hard to see with that white font there. We've pretty much kind of hit our goals all the way through. A little low side, about 3 years ago on the takeaway side. That was a 10-game season, so we only had 17 this year. We had 29. Okay, so really close to our 3 a game. This year, however, you can see our rush and our pass a little high this year, and so in our opponent's average. We kind of had a inexperienced defense this year. We had these 2 years prior. These are 2-year starters. This year, our linebacking core was the first year they started. Basically, my JV players are our starting linebackers, and we were kind of slow, all right, and that kind of showed up. So we were a little weak in that area. And you're going to have little bumps in the road once in a while. I think that's important to kind of point out here. Okay, why do we run it? We get our best athletes on the field, okay, and more speed, obviously. All right, this game's become, especially at our class, at our level, it's become obviously a very fast game. It's like basketball on turf, basically. Okay, so we've got to get the athletes out there. It's balanced. We can make really easy adjustments, and I'll show you kind of some of what of our basic alignments and what they are. And we pretty much have, most of the time, 6 defenders from tackle to tackle. So there's six players in the box dedicated to the run. Once in a while, we'll have 5, okay, if we're going to be in a coverage situation. And we have a lot of tweeners, so just guys that aren't big enough to play defensive line, okay? And so, but they're about linebacker size, so we can get those guys in and off the field. They're not your big, 6'2", 220-pound D linemen. Maybe, we've had guys on the D line that weigh 180. Okay, we had a guy one this year played at 170. Okay, but he was quick and aggressive and used his hands, and that works for us. Okay, so speaking of personnel, our average, when you look at it last year, okay, we're along the small side. Our defensive line average about 207 pounds. This year, about 215. We had a couple of tall DNs that worked in for us, but if you average those out, our linebackers around 180, our defensive backs about 168, and probably run like a 5'2". So not a lot of speed. We're a little undersized. We had 3 starters over 200 pounds this year on our line. So again, this defense makes sure we put people in the right places. All right. What we love to see kids do is fly around, okay, and have fun. We constantly say this in our practice: do your job. Okay, it's a very assignment-based defense. Okay, it has very minimal adjustments to it. Okay, and we're kind of, if you don't do your job, if one person doesn't do their job, the whole thing breaks down. Oops, go on here. Sorry about that. We want to attack instead of being attacked, like Coach was mentioning earlier. Okay, and when we first started this, we had 2 calls. We had auto run and auto pass. Okay, and our linebackers kind of work in groups, like our outside backer, our stack, and an end would be a group of 3, a Mike and nose or a pair, and they would make their own calls based on what they thought they saw would work. And so we put the ownership in the players' hands to start with, which worked out. It was kind of a nightmare to grade on film because you're like, what's he doing? I don't know. Because they're communicating on the field. All we know is auto run or auto pass based on the alignment of our D line. So over the years, we've kind of blended that. We've kind of taken some of that ownership back. Okay? We mostly make most of the play calls, but we do let our guys make calls from time to time to give them that say in what's happening on the field. And the responsibilities changed very well. It's really simple. Okay? Our defense is really simple, from their gap responsibility to the different fronts we'll run, to the stunts. It all kind of works together, and it's pretty simplistic. So risk versus reward. Coach prior to this was kind of talking about we got to take some risks, and that's what we do. We take a lot of risks with our defense. Again, kind of a bend, don't break kind of system. And over the last several years, this is kind of what it's given us. Okay? We've had 11 seasons, 233 takeaways. Okay, we're allowing just about 280 yards per game. Okay, our run average, our pass average, our points per game are all within our objectives, and that knows when we're doing some things right, hopefully. Okay, and making plays on the other side of the line of scrimmage has been something that's been a dramatic change for us as well. Okay, so 177 negative yards per play, that's pretty good. Okay, how do we make ourselves versatile? Run slants, we'll twist, run stunts. Okay, I'll get to some of these packages here in a little bit. We shift, and then this is kind of my new term for this as I was getting prepared for this, and I came across some information on a 3-3 from another school, and they call it prowling. Okay, and I'll get to what that is here in just a second. You know, we're the Panthers, and Panthers are a cat, and cats prowl. Okay, and by definition, prowl means, you know, it says move around, okay, restlessly and stealthily, especially in search of or as if in search of prey. Okay, and that's what our linebackers do. You'll see this here. I'll put some clips up here in just a second. That kind of demonstrates what that is. Some of our rules. Okay, Coach talked about having some limited rules. I kind of defined just a little bit more what prowling is. Okay, in order to be successful, okay, we have to make it hard for the offense to find us. Okay, here I am now. Okay, I'm going to make a late shift. Here I am later, and maybe I'm back to the same spot. Okay, so we're always moving in and out of places. Moving in and out of the gaps, they're decoying, they're disguising, they're stunts. You know, we don't want to stand up in B gap and say, I'm coming to B gap. I'm going to stand up there, I'm going to move over to A gap, and I'm going to step back. Okay, you don't know which gap I'm going to. So we're not trying to be predictable. Okay, we try not to move past the next gap. Okay, we don't get too far away because we do have a gap responsibility. This one here I put a star next to because you'll see some of our linebackers do this. They'll jump up past the heels of the D-line. You know, just kind of depends on the player. I'm not totally against that, okay? But we don't want to get caught in the line of scrimmage, obviously. All right. We're in constant motion during our pre-snap cadence, and no matter where you are, okay, you must be able to play your original responsibility when the play starts. And I'll just kind of show you some examples here of what I mean by that. So I'm going to flip over here. These first 4 plays, go back here and start this, are just kind of examples of what we expect out of our linebacking crew and even our defensive line. And I've got some areas that kind of highlight what we're talking about. But you can see the movement already here, and I just kind of focus on the middle here. And then you get this late shift. This guy actually is our nose, and he's lined up here as a defensive end. So they're trying something a little bit different. And we're constantly shifting. Our corners are shifting. It's slight shifts. It doesn't have to be I jump 3 yards here and 3 yards back here. It's just small shifts, small movements to confuse that quarterback in his pre-snap read. You can kind of see a little bit better from the sideline view here. Okay, again, kind of focusing on our 6 in the box here. Everybody's moving. Nobody's standing still. Even our defensive line. You see our defensive line jump. One thing that we do is we play our defensive line off the ball at 2.5 feet. Okay? And the reason we do that is because we want them white-knuckled. They're in that sprinter stance, and we want them off the ball. Okay? Now, if they're up on the ball, you know, is in credit card alignment, okay, and we get a hard count, and they jump, which you can if you're really loaded up, okay, then obviously we're going to create penalties for ourselves. So a little later on, you'll see that happen, okay, and our guys can get back yet in that 2.5 feet distance. So that's why we do that. Okay? But again, we're moving around. Our linebackers aren't standing still. Okay? Our corners are starting to bail a little bit. Okay? They could probably do a little bit better job of moving around, disguising. Okay? Sometimes it kind of depends on the experience level of the player that you have here. Okay? What I like about this, we're not doing a whole lot of shifting here, and sometimes it doesn't have to be. Okay? But everybody's moving forward. Everybody's moving forward on the snap. Everybody's, you know, getting that attack mentality like we talked about. I got one more here. Stuff here. Right. Even our corners get involved. He might even come up and press on this guy too. Okay. So that's kind of the premise behind our prowling, and you'll see that throughout the other clips we'll put up here. Throughout this, we're just constantly moving around, and some guys are better at it than others. Sometimes, you know, they're high school kids. You know, sometimes you got to remind them, hey, you got to move, man. You're moving. You're stuck in sand out there. They start moving around, because if we don't, we're predictable, and we don't want to be predictable. Okay? Any questions about that? any comments or anything, just stop me and feel free to ask away. So, okay. So Coach had mentioned earlier our versatility. These are some of the different fronts that we can show teams. Okay. We are a 3-5, or we can look at a 4-4. We'll run an even front from time to time. We can look like a 3-4, depending on our coverage. 5-2 if our outside linebackers walk up. 5-3. You know, we can even look like a 2-6 if you want to. You know, we've run 2 defensive linemen before, so you know, there's just a lot of different looks that we give offenses just to make sure that, you know, again, we're not being predictable. Okay. So we talked about alignments today. Just to throw that up there, I think we're all on the same page with that. Of course, I'm of the old school. I used to call this a 6, 7, and a 9. Now it's 6 eyes, 7, or 6 is head up, 6 eyes inside, and 7's out. Okay, but we mentioned our defensive groups. Okay, so we have a tackle, okay, a Sam, and a gunner, and that's our strong side group. Okay, tackle, Sam is our stack backer, gunner is our outside linebacker. Okay, and we use a Ripper Liz call to set our defense. So we are moving our strength of our defense to one side or the other. Our weak side is our end, our rover, and our will. Okay?
Coach, on your strength call, is that typically week by week? Sometimes it's the wide side. Is it always the offensive strength?
It will change. Yeah, you're right. You know, depending on the team. Trying to think of one. We might want to go field most of the time with our Ripper Liz call. We might want to set it to the left against some teams based on that. And I'll show you what our kind of our criteria is for Ripper Liz here in just a moment. Okay, our nose. Okay, who's kind of a big, strong 2-gapper. You know, we can use smaller nose. We've got guys in there like 5'7". You know, they're wrestlers. You know, good with their hands. You know, these guys, they're tough. They demand double teams, and that's what we expect out of them. You know, 2 for 1 is kind of what we look out of them. So they're in that. Their base technique's a 0 line, so they're head up on the center, and they're an A-gap player. Hey, Mike linebacker, who stacks behind our center in our base defense. You know, again, he's kind of a glorified defensive lineman in a 2-point stance. Okay, his job is plug the A gaps. He and the nose kind of work in tandem. And typically what we talk about at the beginning of our season when we start repping this out is we like our linebackers heels at a depth of 4.5 yards to give them room to move into attack. Okay? Our defensive tackles, all right, these guys, they're quick. Okay? They're in that 2.5 feet alignment off the ball. They're in that 4 tech is their base alignment. Okay? And again, we want some speed, some strength so they can handle and get their hands on the end man line of scrimmage. They can squeeze things. They can follow their blocks down. They can blow up the trap. Okay? And these are kind of some of the things that we work on with our defensive line. These run fits, or we call them like EDDs. What are your everyday drills? Okay? So if I was a defensive line coach, you know, I'm going to work on these types of these blocks every day. The base, the reach, down, pull, scoop, okay, and then double team. Okay? And the double team, we say, if you get double team, okay, it's 2 for 1. Right? You have to take 2 blockers. Grab, pull cloth, take the ground, make a pile. You cannot get driven off of football. Okay? You cannot be taken out of play. You have to hold your ground. So if you get that double team, okay, secure that double team, take it to the ground, let the rest of the cavalry kind of clean up the mess.
Hey, Coach, on that,
Yeah.
on that, you know, on your trap, right, where you say trap the trapper, are you wrong arming that?
Let's see here. We have wrong armed it before to bounce it because what we were telling our guys on the inside is we want penetration in those gaps. We want to make that run play bubble to our linebackers and let our linebackers run free and scoop that up. Yeah. So.
I think that's actually changed depending upon the kid. We've had some wrong armors, and we've had some that could just square up and
Yep.
hold their ground. And that goes back to our mentality. It's what does the kid do best, and then let's get him doing it. And that's why we do a lot of different things. So you'll ask techniques and things. Sometimes it's like, well, it kind of depends.
Yeah.
We're pretty malleable that way.
Yeah. This year the two ends that we have, they could wrong arm it
Right.
easily. You know, they got the speed, they got the size for it. They could probably do it both ways. They could probably square it up and still make the play. We got some good junior linemen that are playing with us. Our Sam and Rover, our stack backer, Sam, like I mentioned earlier, he's our strong side linebacker. Rover's our weak side linebacker. Hey, we want these guys to be physical, downhill players. We had a senior this year, as a 3-year starter for us, in the passing on film, number 45. he's like the water boy. He just has a nose for the ball. He's a downhill player. He finds seams, he finds gaps, he finds windows, you know, and he gets there. And he gets it. He really gets it. You'll see him put himself in really good positions to make plays, you know, based on what we've maybe shown him throughout the course of the week. So, and their baseline is a 40, which is just basically stacking behind their tackles and ends. Okay, so Coach Irwin, he coaches the stack linebackers, their run fits, or their everyday drills. They work on ISO powers, outside, split, and play away. Okay, so we're talking about that backfield look. Okay, and play away, when the ball's away, you know, you're looking for that window of opportunity to take a run through, whether it be over or under to get to the football. Okay. Gunner and Will, which is kind of my specialty. Okay, Gunner's our strong side linebacker. Could play defensive end. Some guys have in the past for us. You know, Will's kind of our weak side guy. He's a guy that we could drop back as a free safety, maybe in a cover 2 look if need be. So he's an athlete. But typically both of them are usually kind of our best athletes. All right. So their base alignment, we're just talking base, 4x4 off the end man line of scrimmage. You know, and then obviously that's going to look a little bit different as they move around and stem and shift into different looks here. Hey, things that I work on with my outside linebackers, hey, we just work on keying that end man line of scrimmage through to the backfield. Okay, diagnose what the block's telling you to do, okay, and then look at the flow of the running backs. All right, so you know, work on the split flow, power, especially because 3-3. A lot of people think that weakness of the 3-3 is running off tackle. Well, it is if you don't do your job. Okay, if you don't do your job, it is a weakness. All right, so we rep those kinds of things. All right, play away. I love this. I got this from a coach last summer in an all-star game that I was fortunate to coach in. And when plays away, chicken bacon ranch is what he called it. Cut back, boot reverse. Right? And you guys from Norfolk probably know Mike Sunman from Madison. That's who I got that from. So that just sticks with me. And little things like that sticks with kids too. Okay? Chicken bacon ranch. That's all I tell my kids anymore now. It's cut back, boot reverse. And then we also have what's called wing rule and peel rule with our outside linebackers. So if we have, in our base defense, if we have a tight end and a wing, okay, we'll say maybe like a 1x1 or a 2x2, we'll actually, they have a call, a wing rule, to penetrate that gap right away. Make that thing bubble. Okay, we're going to send you in there and disrupt what's happening there. Our peel rule to us is anything that crosses our face. If we're on a stunt from the outside that crosses our face, we go with it. Okay? Take care of those swing routes that oftentimes that we'll see. All right. Okay, defensive backs. You know, we do play a lot of man-to-man. We figure if we can bring the pressure and make the quarterback scramble, then you know our cornerbacks can stick with their men long enough. And our free safety, again, just he's kind of a smaller linebacker type. He has to have some good smarts on the field and good vision, obviously. All right, so coach, setting our personnel. So here's how we set our personnel. Okay, so we have a strength call. Rip or Liz. Rip is right, Liz is left. Okay, first of all, we look for a tight end. Okay, if we have a tight end, then our Rip or Liz goes to that side. Okay, then we look for our 2 or 3 receiver sides. So if there's no tight end, they look for that receiver strength. Okay, if you've got a balanced formation, then we're going to go to the field. Okay, and then if it's in the middle of the field, you've got like a 2x2 set of some sort. Then we're going to call automatic Liz. Most quarterbacks that we see are right-handed, so if we saw a left-handed quarterback, we would change number 4 and tell them to call a rip if it was in the middle of the field. All right, so a gap responsibility. So we run a lot of different slants and some different twists, and all that dictates what our gap responsibility is. As I mentioned earlier, Mike and Nose are A-gap players. Our tackles and ends are C-gap players. Our Sam and the Rovers are B-gap players. Okay? Now, if the front should change a gap, okay, then our linebackers are going to adjust to that gap. So if we were to run a pinch with our tackle and end, which sends them into the B gaps, okay, our stack backers behind them know, I've got C gap now. Okay? So our defense is pretty flexible, it's pretty simple. I know what my front is doing, what the slant is, what the stunt is, okay, that's going to change what I do. Alright? Okay. We'll kind of skip ahead here a little bit because I want to get a couple things here. Let's see here. Alright. So our defensive fronts, I talked about base. okay? So base, we just kind of mentioned, pinch, I just kind of mentioned here, Mike and nose, nothing changes for them, all right? Our salmon rover though, they move out to C gap because we're sending tackling in into B, and our will and our gunner, they are D gap players, they're our contained players from the outside, all right? We can run a double pinch, right? So if we wanted to send 2 more of our linebackers through the C gap, okay? Now we're going to bring our outside linebackers in, okay? So we're going to pinch with our end and our tackle, and we're going to pinch with our outside linebackers, and now our stack backers are basically playing, they have contain, okay? But they're checking for leaks and then scraping over top, okay? Looking for contain. Switch, okay? A switch call is a call for gunner, will, say, or tackling in, okay? And basically they're just switching gas, all right? So we'll basically, actually, I should take that back. We changed that. Our outside backer and our stack backers are switching gas. So we're going to bring our outside backers into B gap. Our stack backers go out to C, okay? And tackling then, they do the same thing. Slants, okay? We'll do a ram or lion call to tell our front line in which direction we're heading. Okay, based on that call, our stack backers are going to adjust their gap responsibilities. Outside linebackers really doesn't impact whatsoever. And smash, okay, we're just smashing, we're just trying to drive our man back into the backfield. Okay. All right. And we have a call for Mike and nose, it's called Cobra. Okay, so if we want to send both Mike and nose to the same side, okay, then we'll give them a Cobra left or a Cobra right. So those are kind of some of our defensive fronts, and all of our fronts basically dictate, what your gap is, what's happening in front of you. If somebody else is in your gap, then you've got the next one. Okay, you have what their gap was, and pretty simplistic. Okay? And we rep this. We rep and rep and rep. We throw out the snakes on the ground, and and we'll get 3-4 groups going, and we just call out our base plays. All right, here we go base. Okay, set hut, pull the ball. Everybody steps to their gap. Okay, all right, pinch, set hut, everybody steps to their gap. Okay, linebackers, they generally take the read steps and point. And so we rep this. We usually have basically we'll have our entire defense in about the first week of 2-a-days, or the first week of practice, I guess, you can't really call it that anymore. Okay, and our defensive guys, they get kind of bored with it after a little while, especially when they're not in pads. Okay, but that repetition is important. So later on when we're playing, they don't have to think about it, they just can react to what's happening in front of them. Okay, we do some twists. Okay, we'll twist our nose and our tackles. Okay, and when we do, we like to send our nose first. He's usually a little slower. Okay, and loop our tackle around. So we'll send nose to B and bring tackle down to A. And let's see here. We'll get to some video here in just a second. We'll kind of show you some of these. All right, we have what's called Nat Week. Okay, so the end of nat is nose, okay, and tackle again. This time we can talk about the end here. All right, so nose again goes to B, okay, end into A gap, and we have some video here of that. And then tan, this would be tackle and nose, okay. So we send nose to B gap, tackle to A. Okay, so we can kind of do some twists on the front line. Tan is something that we normally only do in an even front. So if we have a four-man front, okay, that's the only time we can run that tan, basically. All right.
Explain that real quick, Matt, when you talk about an even front. They're still in a 3-3, we just moved them over again, they still have that same gap from wherever they're
Yep, exactly.
So it'll look like a 4-3,
Yep.
but it's still a 3-3.
Right.
We take our Mike and put him down to 3-point stance or whatever, he still knows where his gap
He's
is.
still an A gap player.
And they
Yep.
might twist from there, they might do anything. I think that's been a little bit of confusion there, is that we only have one front. But those kids might line up,
Differently.
or one technique, I'm sorry. But they could line up in any kind of position that they're gonna be, they just gotta know, I gotta get to that damn gap when that time comes.
Yep.
From wherever I'm at.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. Okay, stunts. When we call stunts, we kind of group them together. We use kind of weather things here. Thunder, our inside linebackers. Lightning for our outside linebackers. Twister, okay, would be sending both insides and outsides, kind of combination of both. And then fire, we're going to send the house, we're going to bring the fire. Okay.
We do that 80% of the time.
80%. It's
At least that's
easy
what
goal.
most of
Yeah. All right, so let's go to the next clip here. Okay. So some of these just kind of, I think these first few clips are just showing our 100s through our 300s here. So you'll see some of our base. I think first couple maybe were just our 100s here. You know, when we talk about our defensive line play, now they read passes, obviously they're pursuing the quarterback. We only ask our defensive line to get to the heel lines of the offensive line. Okay? We want them to get the heel line, break down, keep the ball in front of them. Now if they read pass, okay, then pursue the pass here. Let's see here, I think this is base again. And again, you should see us prowling and shifting, okay, and being aggressive. There's 45 I was talking about earlier. He was our sandbacker this year. This kid's got a nose for the football. You know, he just finds places to go. He's just playing his gap right now. Yeah? He read it, he shot through B gap, there it was. Let's see here, I gotta look, yeah, this is two. Okay, so this would be our pinch. Okay, so our tackling in, they should be heading to B gap here. Not too bad. All right, fortunately, we make a little bit better play in the backfield there. All right. So when we pinch, these stack backers, if they're not on a stunt, which looks like we had Mike going there, okay, they're checking though. They're not just running outside. Sometimes that's kind of a misconception about pinches. Our stack backers, they think, well, I just got to fly out here. No, that's not the case. They need to check what's in front of them first, make sure there's nothing bleeding, and then be able to scrape to the outside. Right. This is another example of pinch here. You see our outside linebackers here. I mean, we're walked up. This will look different. Sometimes they're back here, sometimes they're up. Bell East ran a lot of screen against us, and so eventually, I think some other clips you'll see our nose kind of pull off, and he should be looking for screen.
Coach, I think it should also be mentioned that those 3 D linemen were all new to the position.
Yep.
And you don't see them shifting as much as we'd like. We
Right,
really
exactly.
worked it, but God, it was hard. It's hard to get kids, especially young kids and tired kids, to keep moving. And the
Yeah.
guy who does that the best is our offensive line coach. He's
Yeah.
on the sidelines, and he'll see it, and he right away says, guys are not moving, they're not moving.
This kid's a sophomore here. This kid wanted to be a wide receiver.
Yeah. He's the one that's gonna do a wide open.
Yeah, and he doesn't catch the ball real cleanly, and he's got size because we couldn't even find
Not
shoulder
fast.
pads that were wide enough for him. He's got these wide shoulders, but he wanted to be a receiver. And so after the first JV game, we were kind of like, no, let's try something else. So he wanted to play, and finally against Burke, which was what, second or third game,
Yeah, 3rd game.
and we were like, yeah, this kid can play.
Yeah.
And then he owned it, and he really had, this was kind of his breakout game here. So, but yeah, he's new to it. This kid's a junior over here. He started for us a little bit as a sophomore. He probably does a better job than the other two, but yeah. Sometimes, like I said, high school kids, okay, you gotta tell them, hey, you're not moving, you're standing still. Okay. This is probably an example. This is probably, I think, a pinch fire here. Okay. Meet on the quarterback. It's nice if we can do that. Let's see if we got a double pinch in here. Okay, here's a double pinch. Look here. Okay. Now, only one of our outside linebackers will probably be going here because it looks like we're probably a man. Okay. So our safety's over. This is our other outside here. So only this outside line, because he's to the open side here, is going. Okay. And again, it's not a stunt. And when we call double pinch, our outside linebackers, we have to reiterate to them, this is not a stunt. This isn't flying into the backfield. This is, you are a defensive lineman now. Okay? If you have a tight end on the line, hey, you got to cross face that tight end, penetrate that gap, and get to the heel line. Okay? And sometimes they forget that. Okay? Now here, they'll do too bad of a job because we get some pressure up the middle. The backside is kind of watching, he's kind of breaking down, which is good. Find the football, keep it in front of you. Okay? Be ready to play. And then this would be another example of a double pinch here. I like to see him, this outside linebacker, he needs to come in off of this hip and squeeze this down. We don't want gaps in here. Okay? We want to take that away from them. This would probably be a better example of both outside linebackers I don't know what he thinks, he decides he thinks he's gonna jump inside. Okay, do your job. Okay, do your job. You don't do your job, okay, everything else breaks down. All right, we'll go back here. We'll come back to that here in a second. All right, any questions over? That was our base, our pinch, and our double pinch look. Anybody else, you guys run similar fronts, okay? All right. Okay, coverages, and I'm not gonna really spend a lot of time on coverages, other than this is some of the different coverages that we'll run. Obviously we'll run man, cover 2, cover 3. We'll shift and disguise these, we'll look like a cover 2, we'll roll up into cover 3 and vice versa. Okay, we're looking at doing maybe a little more cover 4 next year. We're kind of exploring that right now as another option. So, all right. So, takeaways. Okay, we talked about this earlier. This is kind of become a culture for us at Norfolk High, and we put a lot of emphasis into this, and we talk about it a lot. We practice it a lot. We reward the kids for takeaways. Okay, and Coach mentioned candy bars, and I'll get to that at the end of here. And our goal. In terms of takeaways, 3 per game. I said that earlier. We have an expectation of 3. And I'm constant on the sideline saying, hey guys, we got 1 takeaway. How many we got left? We got to get 2 more. Okay, we got 2 more takeaways to get. Constant remind them during the game. During practice, you hear it. You know, it's always present. That expectation is always present. We've made it important to our system here. So these are some of the things we do, and it doesn't have to be complicated. We just clean, dirty fumble recovery. Okay, everybody does that. We do an interception and tip drill, and but do you do that? But do you do this for your D line though too? We do this for everybody. We don't just say, okay, linebackers, you do the first one, DBs, you do the second one, and D line, you do the third one here. No, we rotate everybody through this. Hey, the big guys, they like to catch the ball. Okay. You guys get out there, you see your kids when they're playing catch before, all the linemen, they got the football, everybody's running verticals down the field. They want to catch the football. Okay, so we practice that, and then we reward them with candy bars. Okay, we came up with this, I don't know how many years ago, we've been doing it for so long now that this has kind of become, what we do here. So we just set up we'll set up a circuit here. Our DB coach does the interception and tip drill. Our D-line coach does the CPR, which stands for club, punch, and rip. I think I've got a video of some of that here in a second. And then I do the dirty and the clean fumble recovery with different variations. And we rotate all the groups. It's about maybe a 6-minute circuit. You're doing about 2 minutes at each station, rotating everybody through, rep, 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 rep. And then again, we expect it in practice here. So let's see if this link still works. I use this for a junior high plank we did last summer, just to kind of show them what we were talking about. I grabbed these guys. This is at the beginning of our summer weightlifting, and so I just needed some guys to demonstrate. So they're not terribly great, but we talk about clean fumble recovery. We want to get on that side, secure that ball, get in that field position. Okay. When we clean, we want to get under that ball and scoop it. They're getting a little lazy because they're bending with their waist instead of bending at their knees. Okay. And whatever we do when we clean, we don't pick it up the first time. If it happens to bounce in front of us, we're going to keep the ball in front of us and keep after it. Okay? It's funny because sometimes you get guys in practice and like the D lineman, you'll get a big guy like our nose. He's like, I don't know, what's Cowling weigh? Too fat. Yeah. And they do this, and he can't, he's tired, doesn't want to bend his knees unless he's kicking the football. And it can be kind of funny at times, but with reps though, they get better. Okay, we do a simple tip drill. I'm sure everybody does. This is nothing, groundbreaking. Okay, but we practice it because it's going to happen in a game, and I'll show you some clips here in just a second. And then we'll end with what's a club punch and rip. And for all 3 parts, we always emphasize secure the tackle first with that off arm before you bring the club, the punch, or the rip on the ball. Okay. And then Alex is back here. I usually run them in groups of 3. One guy's a ball carrier, one guy's executing the club punch, the rip. The third guy is the scoop man. He's constantly scooping. And then we'll go 20 yards, turn around, they rotate, we'll come back, and we just go back and forth, up and down the field. I'll have like 10 groups of guys doing that. Okay, you get lots of reps, and it's very effective. So, anybody else have any ideas for any different ones you guys do? That I'm always looking for new ones too. Yeah.
I want to add something to this. The kind of a side benefit of this. Our offensive turnovers have gone down tons. We've averaged one fumble a year for the last 4 years. And we've had, I think we averaged 5 interceptions. And part of that is, all this stuff that they're doing, we're two sides of the ball, so when a defensive kid gets a turnover, it's, I wouldn't say taunt time, because I don't want that to happen, but it's like, 7-on-7, if they pick one off, Matt's gonna show you the candy bars here next, that if they pick one off, they get one of these, and they come rocking right by the offensive guys into the office to say, thank you. And
Absolutely.
so it's, I mean, I've seen ours, since we really made the emphasis on turnovers and coached it, I've seen it really go down on the offensive side too.
It made it fun too, you know, these guys, during practice, hey coach, does that count as a takeaway? You know, they're always, does that count as a takeaway? Well, you know, if it's just defense and we're just, you know, scrimmage against ourselves, we're like, nah, it's gotta be actually against the offense, because we know the offense is trying to, you know, execute their plays, whereas, you know, a defensive guy might throw his buddy an interception once in a while, so. But after practice,
It's become a big budget item.
Yeah, so, you know, buy your candy a year ahead of time, get that clearance Easter stuff that's gonna be coming up here pretty soon, but, you know, we just give those small candy bars, so after practice, kid comes in, and we'll even remind, hey, did you get your candy bar? No, you know, and they'll line up in the office, they'll wait for those things, I mean, that's like, you know, it's like they won $1,000 or something. And then for game takeaways, they get full-size candy bars, so, something small, but it's been a big hit, and I think the kids really enjoy it. It's fun to give them out too, you know. They're coming in and saying, yeah, we can talk about that play again. You might have said something on the sideline, but you get a chance to kind of rehash it with them and kind of relive it. So
The only problem is that candy bars are kept in the coach's office. I swear to God, it's like we give up 900 turnovers a night. That was candy bar. Widener's the worst.
especially if you got an early lunch in the day, 6 o'clock, you're kind of looking for something to satisfy you. So, but again, here kids are doing a pretty decent job, especially linebackers moving around. He shifts once, shifts twice. This quarterback's looking left, looking right. You know, he's taking his eyes off things, and what do you have? Tip drill. Okay, and that's exactly. Now he tipped it and got it himself. That's great. Great concentration on his part. Okay. Trying to think. Oh, dirty fumble recovery. You know, we're scrambling for the ball. It's not always going to look pretty, okay? But our guys recognize it's on the ground, and they're on the ground right away. Okay? Just little things. Remember back, one of our goals is to score as a defense. Okay? If this can happen, this is a sophomore linebacker who's rotating in this game. Gets his first touchdown on a scoop and score. Okay? So these are the kind of plays that we're looking for. These are the kind of plays that we practice. These things happen in our practice. I mean, I wouldn't say a lot, but you know, we're definitely creating opportunities to practice those, and it's going to carry over into a game. Okay, this kid right here, you might remember him from our state basketball tournament. This is Air Larson. You know, tremendous athlete. I think he's one of the most underrated athletes we have on our football team. He was a hell of a receiver. First year playing free safety for us. I mean, he just got better and better as the year went, and he can jump. I mean, if you guys watched the tournament and saw some of his dunks, at 6'2", he jumps a lot higher than I used to. Okay, if you're gonna intercept it, you also gotta practice blocking people up the field. Okay, back here, you know, see if we got yep, kind of, yes he does. So you see 35 come back, he gets the straight block, everybody's out, leading the charge, he just happens to be a little faster than the rest, you know, and kind of outruns his coverage there. But that's what we want to see though. Guy intercepts the ball, you don't just stop playing, okay? You get up the sideline, you find somebody, you block them, okay? You help them get to the end zone. But that straight block back here though, that's huge, okay? They're ready to turn around and recognize he's going to block the nearest guy. That's usually the guy that makes the tackle on the interception. Okay? And against Westside, this probably sealed the deal. This helped us win the game right here. Again, we want to score. We scored more this year than we had probably in the last 2 years. Okay? And that's a direct result of the number of takeaways this team was able to produce. You know, so bend, don't break. Let's go back here. I know I've got some other things in here. I'm going to talk about pursuit.
I have a question for you. How many times did you say that group of kids that were out there on that pick 6, how many times have they done that same play in practice?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we do what's called interception offense. You guys have done that before where, you know, we'll put our defense out, even our defensive line. So we'll run all of our defenders. I think that's on here. Let's see if I can find it here. This kind of talks about our, let's see here.
You're down to
Interception.
3 minutes left, Coach.
Yeah, right here. Oh, that's interference. Okay, interception offense. It's really pretty simple. I like this because I can be the quarterback. I was never a quarterback. Okay? And I run my ass off, and it's a good workout, and I probably need to do more of that. But we'll put our whole defense out there, and we've got a snake laid out, okay? And we just run our base defense, and we'll mix in the call. But when we're introducing, we just run our base defense. We'll call it coverage. You know, here we're looking at cover 3 right now. And then basically, when I snap that football, I'm going to give them either a run or a pass look. Okay, I'm going to drop back. I might do 3-step and throw. I might go 5-step. I might run boot. Okay, just to make sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. You know, D-line, they're going to take that hard lateral step into their gaps, get heel line diagnosed. And then wherever I'm at, they're trying to cup around me. That nose is trying to stay over top of the ball, tackle, and then their job is to keep me contained as I move in that pocket. Okay, and then obviously, then I always tell them, don't be right in my face when I throw the ball, I'm going to break my hand. Okay, that's their job. And then we're dropping in our zones, and as we're working, you know, back and forth, you know, if I'm moving, our zone's moving. If I rush outside the pocket, you know, we've got a flow drop coming from either one of our stack backers, and then our backers are shifting over to accommodate that vacant space. Our corners and our free safety are adjusting to the movement of the quarterback. And then I just throw the ball. I throw a ball into space. Usually it's near somebody. And then we teach, we're really big about going up, getting that ball at its highest point, pulling it down, yelling outside. The next man that's closest should get the straight block and turn back and block. Okay? And everybody else heads to the sideline looking for blocks, and then we go score. We rep, and that's, you know, we do that hundreds of times. You know, and so when it shows up in the game, that's great. So that's one of the pursuit drills we did. Like I said earlier, we've kind of done a lot more pursuit in practice. We do a thing at the beginning of our practice called Panther Time, where it's kind of, we just run plays, offense for defense, up and down the field we go. You know, something else that we've done interference pursuit, where you designate half your defense, the right side of your defense, you're going to go this way, the left side is going to go this way. Snap the ball, they're trying not to run into each other, basically. Because, you know, on the field, you're going to have to avoid obstacles. You're going to have to get to that next level in pursuit of something that happens to break the long one. And we did this because, you know, we understand that we're going to give up big plays from time to time. We have to be able to defend it. Okay? And then we'll put some cones over here, something so they have kind of a target to run to. Okay? And we always do a finish drill at the end. Okay? It might be like 10 jumping jacks. They get a break, hustle back in. You know, we'll have, you know, 3-4 defensive groups going. One goes out, reps it. If it's good, they're good. Next group comes out, and we just do that for about 10 minutes. 10 minutes straight. That's all we do. Great conditioning. And then another one's cone pursuit. Cone pursuit, just again, we're teaching angles here, so we're going to line cones up on the sideline about every 5 yards. It's kind of a toss pursuit mentality. We're going to talk about these play side backers, in which they should basically take the first 4 zones. It just depends on who gets there first. Our backside tackler, and then after they take their reach step to the heel line, they are the reverse player, so they're pursuing down the line of scrimmage. Looking for reverse, so they should be a man removed from the quarterback, which means just a man deeper than the quarterback. Okay? And then basically our backside linebackers have the deeper angles, or our backside corner. These guys really get a workout, because if you're the corner, you're either going to run about 10 yards to sideline, or on the next play you're going to run about 70, because you're the touchdown saving tackle. So those are just some simple and some of my favorites that we do in practice, just to kind of reiterate that 11-man pursuit to the ball. So, and then one last thing we do defensive takeoff. We'll do about 4 stations. We'll each have a snake on the ground, and the coach Erwin will stand here in the middle, and he'll just call a play, and each group has a full defense, and they rep that play. Looks good. On to the next one. They sprint to the next one. He calls another one. Good. On to the next one. And we just kind of continually run that circuit to rep those plays. So
You'll notice all of our things that we do in practice are kind of conditioning. It's the only conditioning we do. We don't do any kind of conditioning. The thing that Matt talked about at first, the Panther Time, is a 15-minute session of offense versus defense, and we have to get a playoff every 12 seconds. I mean,